की जय। हरे कृष्णा। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 7, What Prahlad learned in the womb, Text 37. Guess some of you have your devices to channel on. 7:37. Adhokshajalambam iha shubhatmana.
दोषजालंबं विहासुभात्मना
Sharirana samsriti with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who is beyond the reach of the materialistic mind or experimental knowledge.
mind or experimental knowledge.
Alambam, being constantly in contact.
Being constantly in contact.
Iha, in this material world. Ashubha Atmanaha, whose mind is materially contaminated.
Whose mind is materially contaminated.
Sharinaha, of a living entity who has accepted a material body. Samsriti, of material existence. Chakra, disciple. Shatanam, completely stopping. Tat, Nirvana, connected with the Supreme Brahman. The absolute truth. Sukham, transcendental happiness. Understand. Buddha, those who are spiritually advanced. Therefore, engage in devotional service. Within the core of the heart. Ishwaram, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Super Soul within the heart. Translation. Purport by Divine Grace. The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, by the transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the Asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshiping the Super Soul within everyone's heart. Purport. Generally, it is understood that by merging into the existence of Brahman and personal feature of the Absolute Truth, one becomes completely happy. The words Brahma Nirvana refer to connecting with Absolute Truth, who is realized in three features: Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shastate. One feels Brahma Sukha, spiritual happiness, by merging into the impersonal Brahman, because the Brahmajyoti is the fulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yasya Prabhava Prabhato Jagadanda Koti. Yasya Prabha, the impersonal Brahman, consists of the rays of Krishna's transcendental body. Therefore, whatever transcendental bliss one feels from merging in Brahman is due to contact with Krishna. Contact with Krishna is perfect Brahma Sukha. When the mind is in touch with impersonal Brahman, one becomes satisfied. But one must advance further to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one's remaining merged in the Brahman effulgence is not always assured. As it is said, Arura Krikchena Param Padam Tata Padantido Nadita Yushmat Angriha. One may merge in the Brahman feature of the absolute truth, but there is a chance that one may fall because of not being acquainted with the Hokshaja or Vasudeva. Of course, such Brahma Sukha undoubtedly eliminates material happiness, but when one advances through impersonal Brahman and localized Paramama to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead in relationship with Him as a servant, friend, parent, or conjugal lover, one's happiness becomes all-pervading. Then one automatically feels transcendental bliss, just as one becomes happy seeing the shining of the moon. One acquires natural happiness upon seeing the moon, but when one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's transcendental happiness increases hundreds and thousands of times. As soon as one is very intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one surely becomes free from all material contaminations. Ya nivrittis tanuvritam. This cessation of all material happiness is called nivritti or nirvana. Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, 1138, Ramando bhavit esha chetarada vanikritaha naiti bhakti sukham bodhe Ramanu tulamapi. If Brahmananda, the bliss of merging in the Brahman effulgence, were multiplied 100 trillion times, it would still not equal even an atomic fragment of the ocean of transcendental bliss felt in devotional service. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He's equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state he attains pure devotional service unto me, unto the Lord. Bhagavad Gita 1854. If one advances further from the Brahman Nirvana platform, one enters the stage of devotional service. The word Adhokshajalam refers to keeping the mind always engaged in absolute truth. Who is beyond the mind in material speculation? Who is beyond the mind in material speculation? Savayamana Krishna Padar Vindayo. This is the result of deity worship. By constantly engaging in the service of the Lord and thinking of His lotus feet, one is automatically freed from all material contamination. Thus, the word Brahma Nirvana Sukham indicates that when one is in touch with absolute truth, material sense gratification is completely nullified. Om Gantibrandasya Yananjanashalakaya Chakshurumritamena Tasmai Shri Gurubhan Paramahansalam Paramavete Maham Vande Shri Gurundavitanam Vacha Pumvishta Kripa Sindhuveva Chapatitanam Bhavayu Vaishnava Mahajaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasudha Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna
Recording in progress.
Hare Rama 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 Hare. Translation once again. The real problem of life is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, By the transcendental bliss realized from constant engagement in devotional service, one is completely liberated from material existence. All learned men know this. Therefore, my dear friends, O son of the Asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshiping the Supersoul within everyone's heart. Prahlad Maharaj, wonderful, topmost pure devotee of the Lord, is continuing to teach the sons of the Asuras, his demoniac classmates. He's teaching them. Prahlad Maharaj is a perfect example of fearlessness, perfect example of remembrance of Krishna, and that even in the most difficult circumstances, in inconceivable circumstances, he was fearless and always remembering Krishna. It's quite amazing. Aside from him being fearless and always remembering Krishna, he was also interested in the welfare of others. There might be people who are fearless, there might be people who are remembering Krishna, but our scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam and other such books, they explain that the highest form of worship is actually surrendering oneself in devotional service and specifically trying to help others. That is the glory of Prahlad Maharaj. As he points out in his prayers later, after the disappearance of Hiranyakashipu, he points out in his prayers how many saintly persons who practice monovrata, like vow of silence. Has anyone done that here? You've done it? For how long?
Okay.
One day? All right, that's pretty good. I guess you beat all of us here. So monovrata, vow of silence. So there may be many sages, they vow of silence, they go up to the Himalayas, away from Boston and other such places. We have too much going on here. But Prahlad Maharaj, he says, but for me, I do not have such desire to go off to the Himalayas but I want to be, in the Srila Prabhupada translates, the towns and cities where people are. I want to try to help them. I want to try to bring them to Krishna. And specifically, Srila Prabhupada, he says, I want to try to deliver these poor fools and rascals who, they don't know problems of life, what to speak of the solutions. Let's hear Prahlad Maharaj say the real problem of life. He's mentioned this because people don't understand the real problem of life, what to speak of the solutions. So they're completely bewildered. So he said, I do not want to, I want to stay in the cities, populated cities, and try to help people, deliver them. And then he goes further and he says that because I realize, I understand that without coming to the shelter of your lotus feet, Krishna, or Nrsimhadev, without coming to the shelter of your lotus feet, they can never be happy. So therefore he wants to stay in the cities. Harikesh, one of Srila Prabhupada's early disciples, he asked, interesting about the importance of preaching. He was with Srila Prabhupada as his personal secretary, but Srila Prabhupada wanted him to go preach in Eastern Europe, which was wanted to go to a very challenging area. Harikesh, he really liked being with Srila Prabhupada. And he wanted to cook for Prabhupada, and he wanted to clean for Srila Prabhupada. He wanted to be his personal servant. But Srila Prabhupada wanted him to leave and go preach. And then Harikesh, he put so many different conditions. He said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, but what about this? What about that? And then he said something like, oh, Srila Prabhupada, but there might not be anything for me to eat there. There just might be meat. And then Prabhupada, he was getting very kind of, you could say, transcendentally angry, and he was chastising him, and he said, I don't care, just go. And then he said, eat meat. Prabhupada said, and then Harikesh said, but what about my consciousness? And Prabhupada said, damn your consciousness. And he said, go. Very interesting, actually. And Harikesh, he left, and he went preaching. Of course, he didn't eat meat. There was plenty of food and so on. Prabhupada knew that also. He was just saying, go. And then he did so much wonderful preaching. He translated so many books in different languages. And he really did a lot, actually. So anyways, Harikesh, one time, he asked Srila Prabhupada, we were discussing this last night. I think most of the devotees weren't there. There's a few who are there. We're here now. But Harikesh asked Srila Prabhupada one time. It's a good question, actually. And the question was, are you in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj? And Srila Prabhupada said yes. And he said, I'm always trying to deliver these fools and rascals who have forgotten Krishna. Out of love. So this is Prahlad Maharaj, a perfect example of fearlessness, perfect example of remembrance of Krishna, but higher, in a sense, is that perfect example of compassion. So one should be compassionate. By definition, a Vaishnava is compassionate. What do we say when we see Vaishnavas? We offer our obeisances and we say, we could have chanted a prayer where it said, oh Vaishnava, you who have all good qualities, you who are always remembering Krishna, you who are always fearless, I offer my obeisances to you. We could have chanted a prayer like that. Or we could have chanted so many different prayers, which there are many different prayers glorified Vaishnavas. So many of them could have been chosen. But we chant a very specific one. And that one is Vancha Kalpatribhishya Kripa Sindhuvirvacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. That I offer my respectful obeisances to you, O Vaishnava, who are just like a wish-fulfilling desire tree. They fulfill everyone's desires. And you're like a Kripa Sindhu, like an ocean of mercy. Kripa Sindhu. I offer my obeisances to you. So, Krishna is said to be Karuna Sindhu, an ocean of mercy, but devotees are also Kripa Sindhu, ocean of mercy. What does that mean practically? It means that their level of compassion or their level for thinking of others and being merciful to others is actually unlimited. So this is the glory of Prahlad Maharaj and Vaishnavas. They're fearless, they're remembering Krishna, and they're merciful. They're very important. And the proof that one has received the mercy of Krishna, because sometimes we may wonder, what is the proof? Everybody, all devotees, they want the mercy of Krishna. So then they may wonder, what is the proof that I have got the mercy of Krishna? One of the proofs that we have received the mercy of Krishna is that we are merciful, we're kindly disposed towards others, compassionate. This is brought up in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the pastime of Vasudeva Dutt, going to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, saying, I have a desire. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying Vasudeva as if he had thousands of mouths. He goes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, this is my desire. And he said, I want to liberate all living entities. I want to free them from their suffering. Whether they follow me or not, I want to. Everyone. Liberate everyone. So take that karma, put it on my head. I don't mind if I have to suffer in hell forever or however long, just as long as they're free. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says when he responded to Vasudeva, he said he was crying. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was crying and he was trembling. And he says that his heart was melting. And he said that this is the proof that you have received the mercy of Krishna, that you are merciful. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went further and he said, I will fulfill your desire. And actually liberated all living entities. So this is proof that we have received the mercy of Krishna, that we also are merciful. So Prahlad Maharaj here is a perfect devotee, always remembering Krishna, fearless and merciful. He is instructing his classmates to immediately begin meditating upon and worshiping the Super Soul within everyone's heart. So he's saying, immediately start worshiping Krishna. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Mahasucha, Krishna says, do not fear, do not worry, and also do not hesitate. What are some reasons that people hesitate? Does anyone want to give some reasons? Why would someone hesitate in surrendering to Krishna? Anyone want to?
Doubt.
Who said that? Doubt. That's true. Doubt. They may doubt. What do they doubt?
If it is the right thing, am I doing something? Is it true? And
Is Krishna God?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What I'm doing, is it actually going to lead to something, or maybe it will be just always?
Yeah. So they doubt. I remember there was one brahmachari in San Diego. He was brahmachari for a number of years. Then he left the temple. And somehow or other he forgot Krishna. He, let's say, fell into illusion. I saw him years later at the temple. He came by. And he said, yeah, I felt like I was working my way up the ladder, because it's like from Shraddha to Prema, from faith to love of Krishna. So there's a whole process. Approaching a guru, becoming initiated, and freedom of the narcas in the heart, and so on. So he said, I felt like I was making my way up, but then I left Krishna consciousness, and now I feel like I kind of went back, and I'm trying to develop my faith. But he understood that, he told me, he said, but I understand that the real bliss is in bhajan, or kirtan. Similarly, still have that. Which was honest with him, and I appreciated his honesty. But yeah, people have a hard time surrendering because they don't have faith. It's very true. And Srila Prabhupada mentions about the different levels of devotees, Kanishthadikar, Madhyamadikarika. The Kanishthadikar is in a very challenging situation because the faith is not strong. So in other words, when they change their mind, not surrendering to Krishna, not continue. So that's one reason. Any other reasons why someone would surrender? Why someone would hesitate surrendering to Krishna? Attachments? What type of attachments? Can you think of? What type? Can anyone think of what type of attachments may hinder one from, or what would be stopping one from surrendering to Krishna? What type of attachments? What about family attachment? That might be there. If I surrender to Krishna, what will my family think? If I get too serious about Krishna consciousness, whether that means as a brahmachari or a householder, whatever, what will my family think? Maybe I should just be a dharmic person, a good person. I should come to the temple, and I should just, but I shouldn't like fully surrender because maybe my family might think that's too fanatical. So that's there. And there's other attachments. Any other reasons you could think of why people hesitate surrendering to Krishna?
Attachment to material success?
Yeah, that's attachment to material success, that's true. There was one Christian preacher, and he said, God is not black, God is not white. He said, God is green. And when I heard that from one devotee, and I was thinking, oh, like Ramachandra, because Ramachandra is it's like a hueish, like a greenish color. Described that like the hue of fresh grass. And then I realized afterwards, God is green. It means money. People they take God and then they remove him from the picture, or maybe put him in the background, and then they put money there, the dollar sign. So yeah, that can get in the way of one surrendering to Krishna. Of course, we're not against money. Srila Prabhupada, there was one yogi, and the devotees quote it quite often, but there was a yogi who was saying, there's a pile of money, he was saying, I don't want to touch it, get it away from me. It was questionable if that was just for, what would they call that? It's questionable whether he was just putting on a show or not. But anyways, he was like this, with a big pile of money. Then Srila Prabhupada said, oh, you could take a picture of me and I go like this with the money. And the reason is they'll use it for Krishna. They'll build temples, print books, do so many wonderful things. Lakshmi Narayan. So yeah, attachment, family attachment, or attachment to material success, or what was that one? Doubt. Any other things? Yes. Envy. Envy of. They want to be God. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's very good. Envy. In Seattle, Washington, Srila Prabhupada was visiting there, and there was one young man in the audience, and Srila Prabhupada was talking about surrender. Right? You should surrender to Krishna, you should surrender to the spiritual master, right? And then the man, he raised his hand and he said, okay, I heard you're talking everything, but he said, I don't want to surrender. And he said specifically, I don't want to bow down. Because devotees, they're always bowing down, offering obeisances, right? Dandavats, obeisances. Raghunath Das Goswami, does anyone remember how many obeisances he was offering every day? Dandavats? I think it was about 1,000 to the deities, and then like 2,000 to the devotees, something like that. Srila Prabhupada would comment, very good exercise. Getting up and offering obeisances. So the man was saying, I don't want to bow down. And then Srila Prabhupada said, you've diagnosed your own disease. And then Srila Prabhupada said that you have to bow down. You're forced to bow down. And then the man said, yeah, but I don't want to bow down to anyone like spiritually. And then Srila Prabhupada said, you're forced to bow down. You have to bow down, you have to serve, you have to bow down to the laws of nature. What about old age? Does anyone want to bow down or accept old age? Nobody wants that. Disease, old age, disease, rebirth, death. Nobody likes those things. So then Srila Prabhupada said, you have to bow down. You have to bow down to these particular laws of nature. So then Srila Prabhupada said, it's not a question about whether you want to bow down or whether you do not want to bow down. He said, that's not the question. The question is,
Whom you want?
whom do you want to bow down to in such a way that you'll be happy, you'll be satisfied, you'll be content. And then he said, that is Krishna. You bow down to Krishna, you bow down to the spiritual master, and you'll be happy. But we see that out of envy, people don't want to do it. That's true. Pride, envy. Did you have one?
There's so much anxiety of material careers that they feel that I don't have my time to.
Oh, I see. So, anxiety in terms of taking care of material things, and they feel they don't have time. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe someone in a sense wants to surrender to Krishna, but they feel I don't have any time. Sometimes devotees feel like that. They say, I want to chant, I want to hear, I want to meditate on the deity, but I'm having a hard time finding time. Whether they're working, or whether they're managing temples, or whether they're taking care of devotees, or whatever it may be, they sometimes have a hard time finding time. I think every devotee has felt like that. Lack of time. They always want more time. The materialists want more time, and the devotees want more time for different reasons. The devotees want more time to serve Krishna, and the materialists want more time to whatever, engage in their material activities. Recently, I personally was thinking like this. I want more time to chant and read specifically. And sometimes people think, you're a brahmachari, you should have time. But even brahmacharis, they feel that want more time. So then some thought came to my head. And the thought was, no Tech Tuesday. Which means no email, no this, no that, no, none of those things. No tech, just get rid of the tech. Phone calls okay, in a controlled way, a normal phone call, talking on the phone, but otherwise, just forget about it. Because we're living in a world where, I message devotees from Turkey, you can have some real fun, right? You message devotees from Turkey, from India, from Boston, from Texas, it's all over, and then you're getting messages, it could really be overwhelming. So no Tech Tuesday, so that's what came to my mind. And I was thinking, okay, and I looked it up, and it's a thing in schools apparently, no Tech Tuesday. I tried to look up no Tech Thursday, but that didn't exist. No Tech Tuesday. So then I started following that. And I put it on my calendar, each Tuesday, no tech. So that's 4 days out of a month. And then that's, if you add that up in a year, it comes to a lot of time. And then I went further, no tech Ekadashi. So that's 6 days in a month. And then you add that up in a year, it comes up a lot of time. So I try to use that time for extra chanting and reading and so on, not for other things. If someone might think it's difficult to do No Tech Tuesday or No Tech Ekadashi, then they could do Low Tech Tuesday or Low Tech Ekadashi. So those are some things in relation to time. Did somebody else have? Yes.
Fear of losing material happiness, material income, material happiness.
Okay, very good. Fear of losing material happiness. Yeah, that's true. I think for all devotees who seriously engage in the process, whether they had a lot, there's some devotees who may have had a lot, like for example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Raghunath Das Goswami, said he had the opulence like that of Lord Indra. His wife was like an angel, and he just was constantly trying to run away to join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eventually he did. But he had a lot to give up, and he gave it all up and ran to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So sometimes you see people like that, but also for all devotees really who seriously engage in the process, they neglect, they give up so many ambitions and desires and so many things to be big in this world. Like me, I joined not like me, but an example in my own life is that I joined when I was in high school, I graduated high school, then I joined the Brahmachari ashram. So
So you were 17 or something?
I came when I was 17, and then I joined when I was 18. It's not, I was 17 years old. It's not that I had a lot to give up. I didn't have a house, I didn't have my own family and money and things like that. I didn't have any of that. So I didn't have a lot to give up, in a sense. But in another sense, I gave up everything that generally people go after. Education, family, all of these. So the ambitions, the desires that people usually go after, I gave that up. Which is, it's only by the mercy of Krishna, it's only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, it's only by the mercy of my spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, that I was able to do that in my own imperfect way. But that also, it's something to give up. So people fear that. I have to give, these things up. But as this particular purport, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, just do it immediately. You won't lose out. It's mentioning here that the happiness of Brahmananda and personal merging into the okay, there's something there. It's much better than material happiness. But as Rupa Goswami says, that bliss of merging with the Brahman effulgence, if it were multiplied 100 trillion times, that's a lot, it would still not equal even an atomic fragment of the ocean of transcendental bliss felt in devotional service. If we have Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of the nectar of devotional service. So all of these things may be all the things that all of you mentioned, doubts, attachments to family or material success, envy. What were the last two?
Not having time.
Not having time,
Fear
of losing material happiness. All of those things, they do check people's progress. And even though we have surrendered to Krishna, they may be impeding us to some degrees, these different things. Maybe not, maybe, I don't know. But we should have faith in Srila Prabhupada, we should have faith in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that, and we should have our own experience over time, gradually, that all of these things are not reasons not to surrender to Krishna. We should surrender to Krishna. It's the best thing we could do, ever. And the happiness we will feel gradually, not immediately, but gradually, will completely trump all levels of happiness. Material happiness, the happiness of Brahmananda. It goes beyond all of that. And then we're swimming in the ocean of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, like waves and so on. Very blissful. And that happens by gradually, Savayamana Krishna Padara Vindya, by Srila Prabhupada said, this is the result of deity worship. We should never underestimate the power of deity worship. Deity worship is said to be for conditioned adhikaris, but even advanced devotees engage in deity worship. Extremely important. Actually, Rupa Goswami says it's one of the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. It's not the process for this age, but still, it's one of the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. So we should take shelter of the deities, praying, serving, these deities are very special here, special connection to Srila Prabhupada, and special place, Boston. When Srila Prabhupada initiated the devotees in Boston, he said the Boston Brahmins. Right. So, and if we gauge in the service of Krishna's lotus feet, then we'll be free gradually. And one is in touch with absolute truth. Then material sense gratification, all these other things, they just kind of fall to the side. So, okay, does anybody have any question or comment? There's question or comment or let's say reflection. Some of us. All right, as one of my friends would say, going once, going twice. Okay, we'll stop there. All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Balaram Prabhu ki jai. So dear devotees, Balaram Prabhu would be here for 2 more days. Tomorrow is going to be a class, and also
Today afternoon also.
yes, today afternoon as
For
well.
the youths. For
For the youths.
device boys.
And tomorrow morning Bhagavatam class, and tomorrow evening at 6:30 Prabhuji will give the Sunday class. Yes, please make sure you have to take advantage of this. Thank you. We welcome you at ISKCON Boston.
Thank you very much.
So let's welcome you on Punish Monday once again. Chanting one Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hari Bol.
So Vanamali Prabhu, we met at the New Vrindavan leadership meeting. I think it was last year.
Yes.
So I was mentioning how I was thinking of coming to Boston. So he invited me, and also Purushottama is my old friend from San Diego. So Purushottama and his wife. So the combination of them, their kind invitations. So thank you.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. That's good. Okay.
Oh, you mean you drove halfway? You weren't going well? Which one is your husband? Oh, really? Okay, nice. Yeah. Very sincere. I'm observing their Bhakti, their Bhakti practices and so on. Yeah, Purushottam's getting up in the morning. Well, that's a good question. Well, yeah. I mean, so much of our scripture talks about the principle of sadhu sangha. Because with the sadhus, with the
I think yes.
the right idea.